This is the video homework examples video number 2 for your 7.1 notes, and this is going to be looking at your negative exponents and whenever the exponent is 0. But first, let's start with a review of fractions. Any number can be made into a fraction. Okay, 1/3 is already a fraction. I want you to remember that a fraction has a numerator and a denominator. Okay, any number, any real number can be made into a fraction. For example, 0.3, a decimal, can be made into a fraction. What we do is we take the number, the 3, and we put it over its place value, which the place value of the 3 is tenths. We put it over 10. So here we have a numerator and a denominator. Whole numbers can be made into fractions. When you have a whole number, you just put them over 1. Now we have a numerator and a denominator. So in a moment, when I talk about moving something, I'm talking about moving it from the numerator to the denominator, or from the denominator to the numerator. All right, so let's look at our examples. First one, simplify the following expression. When it says to simplify, it means that you cannot have a negative exponent in your answer. Now, just remember, negative exponents do not mean you have a negative answer. It just means that you're going to move it and make it positive. To do that, we're going to first remember that 5 to the negative 4 can be made to look like a fraction by putting it over 1. To make a negative exponent positive, we're going to move it with its base. Now remember, the base is the 5. The negative 4 is the exponent. We're going to move it to the bottom, because whenever we move something, we move it from the numerator to the denominator. Think of it as switching places with a 1. So these two are basically going to switch places. So it's 1 over 5 to the 4th power. Notice that the 5 remains positive. Only the negative exponent becomes positive when you move it. And now we're going to simplify 5 to the 4th power. On your calculator, you do 5, hit the little rooftop button, and then 4, hit enter, and it will tell you that is 1 over 625. So all our answers must be an integer or a simplified fraction. So make sure you follow the directions on those. All right, number 2. It says write an equivalent expression with positive exponents only. So this is x to the 7th times y to the negative 4th. If it has a positive exponent, it does not move. Okay, so x to the 7th is going to stay in the numerator, basically. It's over 1. But y to the negative 4th is over 1. Here, I'll write it right here. It is going to move. So now we're going to have x to the 7th over 1 times, remember when it moves, it's switching places with a 1. So now it's 1 over y to the 4th. Again, notice that the negative exponent became positive when we moved it to the denominator. The y, however, did not change signs. So now we're going to multiply the numerators together and the denominators together. So it's x to the 7th, y to the 4th, over y to the 4th. Sorry, that's c. Okay. Same thing here. We can actually make this into split it up. This is actually x over 1 times 1 over y to the negative 2. Just kind of split it up a little bit just so you can see whenever I multiply the two fractions, it does get x over y to the negative 2. Now I'm going to keep the x over 1, but I'm going to flip the 1 over y to the negative 2, so now it's y to the 2nd over 1. So that's x y squared. So that one is A. All right, so when you get to your homework, number 4, on the notes it says C number 1. So I'm going to skip number 4 on your notes and go to number 5. Before we get to number 5, there's a little rules I need you to understand. If you have a negative integer inside the parentheses, okay, inside the parentheses, and your exponent is even, then you're going to have a positive answer every single time. And when you do your calculator, if you want to do this on your calculator, just make sure you use the parentheses around your negative number and put the even exponent on the outside of the parentheses. Next rule, negative number inside the parentheses with an odd exponent will equal a negative answer. Now, if there is a negative number but no parentheses, then it doesn't matter whether the exponent is even or odd, can be either one, then you're always going to have a negative answer. Just remember again, negative exponents do not mean negative answers, okay? Negative exponents just means to move me and make me positive, okay? All right, so let's look at number 5. If you need to pause the video and write all that down, that would be great. All right, number 5. So we have a negative exponent. So what we're going to do, I'm going to first rewrite this over 1. Now when you move this, when I switch places with the 1, only the exponent changes signs. Do not change the sign of the number inside the parentheses. So using our rule, negative number inside the parentheses with a even exponent, that means we're going to have a positive answer. Or you can put it in your calculator. Make sure you use your parentheses. -4 in parentheses, use your exponent button, 4, and your calculator is going to tell you 256. But remember, that's 1 over 256. And it is positive. And again, integer or simplified fraction, no decimals. All right, number 6. All right, here's one of the rules I just showed you. There's a negative in an integer, okay, that's -3. And it is not in parentheses. So I am going to have a negative answer. But first, let's look at the negative exponent. The negative exponent means to move me and make me positive. So first, I have a -3 to the -2 power over 1. To make this negative exponent positive, I'm going to flip the whole thing. Remember, the base has to be flipped too, and taken with the goes with the exponent. Notice the 3 stays negative. The exponent is the only one that becomes positive. Now, if you enter this correctly on your calculator, no parentheses, -3, exponent button 2, it will tell you -9. So this is 1 over -9. Now, so we are going to type a fraction. Remember, your negative needs to go either in the numerator or in front of the fraction. All right, number 7. We're going to put this over 1. Okay, again, the negative exponent is the only one that's telling me to move me, not the -5. Don't move negative integers just because they're negative, only if they have negative exponents. So this is going to be a negative answer because I have a negative in the parentheses and an odd exponent. Or you can use your calculator, parentheses, -5, close your parentheses, exponent button, 3, and it will tell you -125. So it's 1 over -125, but when you type it, make sure that the negative is either in front of the fraction or in front of the 1 on top. All right, so that's about negative exponents. Let's look at whenever the exponent is 0. When the exponent is 0, first of all, this is 3 times b times f to the 0 power. F to the 0 power, anytime that you have an exponent, a base that has a 0 power, that actually becomes a 1. So f to the 0 power becomes 1. Any number to the 0 power equals 1. So 3 times b times 1 is 3b. Okay, anything to the 0 power becomes a 1. The base, the f, is the only thing to the 0 power. So only the f to the 0 power becomes 1. All right, number 9. Number 9 is similar to one we've already done. I'll go ahead and do it real quick. So we're going to flip it, exchange places with the 1, and make the negative exponent positive. So this is p to the 6th power. All right, look at number 10. All right, so this is 5 times x to the -5. So this is 5 over, I'm going to write it like this, 5 over 1 times x to the -5 over 1. The x to the -5, that's the one that's going to switch places. And exchange places with the 1. And whenever it moves, the x moves to the bottom, the -5 becomes +5. And now we're multiplying top times top and bottom times bottom. All right, number 11. So on this one, first of all, the q to the 0 power becomes 1. So I have a 1 on the bottom. This q to the 0 power becomes 1. So now I have 8 over 1 times v to the -1 over 1 times t to the -3 over 1. These are the ones that are going to switch places with the 1s. The 8 is not going to move. It does not have a negative exponent. When the v to the -1 moves to the bottom, it becomes v to the +1, but we don't write the +1 as an exponent. And so now we're multiplying all the numerators, 8 times 1 times 1, and all the denominators, 1 times v times t to the third. So it's 8 over v t to the third. And it really doesn't matter which order you write that on the bottom. You can write it t to the third v also. All right, now number 13 says to evaluate. So k is -6. So what I do with these before I evaluate is I go ahead and simplify where the negative exponent is now positive. So put it over 1, move it, make the negative exponent positive. Now I plug in my -6. So -6 is going in for k. When you evaluate, take the k out and put parentheses in its place. So this will be parentheses to the third power. And whatever k is equal to, that goes in the parentheses. So this is a negative exponent. Sorry, not a negative exponent. It's a negative integer with an odd exponent, which means it's going to be a negative answer. So on your calculator, make sure you put your -6 in parentheses, exponent button 3. And so that's 1 over negative, let me double check my answer on this one. I think it's 216. So that's -1 over 216. Make sure the negative is in front of the fraction bar or in front of the 1. All right, number 14. All right, first of all, it does say evaluate t equals -5 and k equals 3. But notice that k is to the 0 power, so that is already a 1. I don't have to worry about putting 3 in for k. Now I'm going to exchange places with the 1, so the t to the -2 goes to the top. And t, I'm going to take t out, put parentheses. The exponent 2 is on the outside, and I'm going to put -5 in the parentheses. So -5, the second power, is positive 25 over 1, which is simplified to positive 25. So we want an integer or a simplified fraction. All right, 15, I believe, is next. All right, number 15. The number of visitors to a certain website triples every month. The number of visitors is modeled by the expression. Okay, here's the expression, where m is the number of months after, that's important, the number of visitors was measured. Evaluate the expression for m equals -1. So we're going to put -1 in for m. So we're going to have 2,700 times 3 to the m power, which is 3 to the m is going to be -1. So this is the one that's going to switch, to flip places. And whenever the 3 to the -1 goes to the bottom, it becomes 3 to the +1. Top times top, bottom times bottom, and simplify. So that means that it's 900. So the expression when we evaluate m is -1 is 900. Now, next it's going to ask you a series of questions. There were 900 visitors, and that m, the 1, is 1 month. And the negative, here it says after, so the negative means before. Okay, so there were 900 visitors 1 month before the number of visitors was measured. All right, last one. Remember what I said earlier, anything to the 0 power is 1. So whatever is inside the parentheses, it doesn't matter what it is. It can be a cow. If it's to the 0 power, then that's just 1. Okay, so that's answer is just 1. All right, so now you're ready to do your homework for 7.1.